Good morning, everybody. David didn't tell you I'm your morning entertainment. And it was interesting watching Anna's presentation because we do a lot of predictive analytics as well. So we use Quid. There's a lot of things you can get from a tool like that around clustering, tracking information. And so I was going like, this looks really familiar. So thank you, Anna. That was a great presentation. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the whole idea of blind spots and how you can exploit those, understand what they are, because it can really lead to a lot of advantage. Well, that's interesting. Got the double background there. Anyway, for those of you not familiar with me, I sped this up. Seeing double here. Basically, I've been around for a long time. I've had positions in sales, systems engineering, corporate marketing, product marketing, field marketing, business development. Basically means I can't keep a job, right? So I keep changing. But the truth is that, I've learned a lot of things. I spent 25 years as a product manager, and that was really the thing I enjoyed, is understanding how to beat the competition. So when the case study I'm going to talk about here around blind spots was really focused around how, as a product manager, how do you beat the competition? So I'll give you an example when we go into the case study, but it's really about how do you beat the competition? Because once you've defined a product, once it's in development, you spend a lot of time worrying about the competition. I also do a lot of public speaking. It's something I enjoy doing. I was over in Beijing at the end of May teaching classes over there. It's just, I enjoy getting to meet people like yourselves at dinner or over drinks, and it's a lot of fun. A little bit about me. I've got 5 grown kids. Some of them have their own kids, and so one of the greatest things about becoming a grandparent is watching your kids get frustrated with their own kids. God does have a sense of humor. I live in Colorado with my wife, Veronica, and we do a lot of outdoor activities. And I'm also a musician. That picture is from the 2012 Los Angeles Jazz Festival. So it's something I've done all my life. And I'm fortunate that I have an outside activity like that. But as my wife says, you're a busy boy, and I like doing lots of things. I'm also a music producer for a company out of the UK called Sleepy Night Records. This is a picture of me in the middle there when I had hair. People don't often believe that, but I actually did have a bunch of hair at one point in time. I've had a number of bands over the years. We do a lot of, being in Colorado, we do a lot of outdoor activities like camping. I'm also a competitive barbecuist. So if you ever watch a Food Network channel, you see people doing Memphis in May. I do competitive barbecuing. And it's actually going to play in, it actually has a relevant part in today's story. My wife said, when you get through working, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to eat other people's barbecue, so I'm now a certified judge. It's a great thing. And it doesn't cost you any money. We started a Boy Scout troop, is still going strong 25 years later. Of course, if you're going to make barbecue, you've got to make your own beer. That just kind of goes hand in hand with it. So, and these are my grandkids. The girls on the left welcomed their baby brother in July. So that's Lincoln, and I actually got to baptize him, so that was fabulous for me. Liam is the oldest kid of the 3, and there's a blank spot there because I've got a granddaughter coming next month. I think she's coming by UPS, so. Anyway, we're going to talk here about strategies and how do you win strategies. How many of you consider yourselves to be a futurist? No? Wow. Okay, a few. Soren, of course. The important thing is we're in CI. We're in market intelligence. We're in competitive intelligence. But we're also responsible for helping, guiding our companies go into the future. That's what Anna was talking about, is anticipating what the market's going to do. So being successful in the market isn't about luck. It's actually about seeing what others don't. That's the whole idea behind blind spots. is that you can see things, you can anticipate things. There are great tools like Quid out there that can help coalesce that information and make it possible, but it's really about seeing what others don't see. Our job is to help our companies gain strategic advantage through competitive insights. And we're not just a reporting organization. We're here to influence decisions. We're here to influence products. We're here to influence M&A activity. And that's really what we get paid for, at least from my perspective. We get paid to help the company be successful. Why is this important? Well, in today's world, there's a lot of things such as market disruptions. A lot of that going on. You see it every day. A lot of rapid innovation. I was at the Product Development and Management Conference up in Chicago a few weeks ago. It was wonderful seeing how many traditional markets, if you want to call it that, are doing some fantastic innovative thinking and coming out with new products. And I'm talking about products like Snap-on tools. You're going like, well, I can just go to get a Sears and Roebuck or a DeWalt type of tool. These guys are doing some serious innovation. Just one example from there, these helmets that people wear, like for welders, they sold maybe 80 of them a year. And the question was, well, why are people not buying it? Guess what? As we heard yesterday, they talked with their customers. And what they found out is that people didn't want to buy those helmets because they weren't cool looking. So Snap-on goes like, well, we can make some modifications. Now they've got full masks, and they are cool looking. You can get it with a skull on there. You can get a Fortnite on there. And guess what? They went from like 80 units a year to 1,200 a year. So that's innovation on something simple, something that we all deal with every day. Another one is Pella Windows. Window business has been around for years. What Pella did is they figured out the biggest challenge a window installer has is they install from the outside. What if we make it easy to install from the inside? Fabulous. So it was wonderful seeing innovation. But innovation comes through people like you and I. As competitive people, what's the competition doing? What are they not doing? And what blind spots can we occupy? And also get that idea patented in a timely fashion. And there are shifting customer expectations. We see that every day, even within Dell. Customers have different expectations as technology comes along. What we do is we offer foresight through better analysis so that we can make better decisions as a company. That's really the crux of what we try and do with our business. By the way, for those of you interested, I'm reading a book right now. It's over there on the table where I'm sitting at. It's by Dr. Lydia Kosopoulos. She actually used to live here in Berlin. She now lives in the UK. But it's a wonderful book because it starts exploiting and getting you to think about how's your market going to evolve? How's the competitor going to respond? So get this on Amazon. It's like about 20 bucks. It is a wonderful book. It's on my must-read list for recommendations. I read about 20 books a year, so try and get some good ideas. But she has a wonderful narrative in there and really talks about, just as an example, she talks about NVIDIA. She puts it in really simple terms, which is what I love because I'm a simple guy. She talks about how NVIDIA actually is, if you think about the gold rush in the United States back in the 1800s, NVIDIA is selling shovels. That's what their GPUs are, and the people who are buying it are Meta, Google, Microsoft. And so she draws analogies on how to think about things differently, which is great. Okay, the reality of today's market is very complex, and it's changing all the time. So things such as the markets are out there, but there's an awful lot of noise. And you and I both have to live with that. It's not unusual for Michael to come to us as our department and say, what's really going on, because I'm hearing this. So how do you filter out that noise? There's a lot of imitation out there. This was a logo from another coffee company going after Starbucks. So it's hard to differentiate from products today. And we're all being manipulated. How many, if you don't want to raise your hand, you don't have to. How many buy from Prime? I do. Amazon Prime. You're being manipulated, right? When you go out there and say, I'm looking at this, and it says only 5 left, what's your impulse? hit that buy now button, right? Because you're being manipulated. And same thing with the markets. It's always being manipulated, and we have to be aware of that. Some call it creative marketing. And we're under time constraints. Some of the other problems with the market today, common pitfalls, people race to the bottom on price because they think that's the only way they can win. And as CI people, we have to show that you create value and you create differentiation. Customer churn is a problem. If you're Netflix, I'm going to just pick on them for a minute, if you're losing more customers than you're gaining each month, you have a cash flow problem. So you want to reduce that churn. Last but not least, dashboards. And I have nothing against dashboards. I have problems with people who use dashboards and they don't actually do investigation. As an example, we had some executives that say, oh, look at our dashboard, revenue's going up. Yeah, well, the market's contracting. What about that line? It said the deals are bigger, not that the market's growing. So you have to be careful about dashboards and guide your executives through understanding what's really behind the noise on that. So I'm going to suggest 3 levers of strategy. We talked about some of this yesterday in the workshop. But first of all, understand the customer propensity to buy. That's interesting is not a buying signal for those of you out there. Where can I get this is a buying signal. So it's really important to understand the customer propensity to buy. We do a lot of work at this at Dell because we sell laptops, and some of you may have a Dell laptop, but it's really understanding what's driving the customer to buy something. Number 2, blind spots, and I'll get more into this because this is an area that all of you can take advantage of. It's about understanding what your competitors don't see. It's also about understanding what you don't see. So it's equally important. And it's about creating differentiation. We talked about this in our breakout yesterday. Helga was helping to lead that. And it was about this particular product here. Excuse me. It's the Nest thermostat, created by Tony Fadell. Tony's also the father of the iPod, the iPhone, and when he couldn't get traction with an Apple to build this, he went outside, started Nest Labs. And the idea behind this was really simple. How can I build a product, a thermostat, that anybody, including somebody like me who's non-technical in that sense of mechanics, that anybody can install and I can control from my phone? It really came down to the idea that they had a cabin, Tony and his wife had a cabin, and by the time they got up there and turned up the heat, they had to stay in sleeping bags all night. He goes, why don't I create an app just, I can go remote, turn up the heat, and by the time I get there, it's warm. So ideas can be generated from a multitude of places. Here's a little framework. I like frameworks because it helps to put things into a perspective that you can use. As a matter of fact, those of you who were asking questions yesterday about return on investment on the CI function, a few years ago I gave a presentation at Cimicon about return on investment of the CI function. If you're interested in that, look at my QR code for LinkedIn at the end. I'll send it to you for free. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it's very simple because I like simple. Complex gets really bad, for me anyway. And it's really about how do you develop an ROI, because it's very difficult at times with what we do to actually come up with an ROI. But this is really about differentiated value proposition, or DVP. And so you have to understand what you're trying to achieve with your customer, with your product, understand the current situation, what is your differentiator, and what does it mean in terms of opportunities. It's all about perceived value, because you'll find that you probably have competitors out there that don't have the best product, but people buy it because they perceive it's better, not that it really is. It's that good enough syndrome we deal with. So this is a case study, and it's hard to do these in a short period of time, but we're going to go for it. So the challenge I had is a 50-year-old market, very stable, very mature, only 2 players in there because everybody else left the market. I mean, it's not a bad-sized market, but 2 people. This is what Porter would call stable competition or a friendly environment. Everybody knows the rules of the game. They don't fire at each other, and they come up with things. There's obviously a status quo by both the players and the customers that have to be overcome. The suppliers and the customers don't want to overinvest in it. So it's, it's a mature market. Most of us would call it boring. I said, I think I see an opportunity. And how customers use products are well known. So I came out with some technology, same use case. Customers didn't have to change anything because if you think about it, that can be a huge hurdle for them. They have to change the way that they're operating. So new technology, same use case, nothing changes. Much quicker data retrieval. Problem I had was my product costs 3 times the cost of the competition. That's a hurdle. We did have very noticeable customer benefits, and for the customers, there were no process changes, so there was no disruption. It was swapping A for B and keep going. And we knew that the competition would be slow to react. If I mentioned the competitor names, you would recognize them. They're well-known entities out there. So we said, what's our DVP? Well, we said, okay, we understand what's going on here. These IT centers are viewed as a cost center. What are the jobs to be done? That's what JTBD stands for. And we said, okay, over here, we need to make the customer the hero. And that's the what's in it for me. That's the WIIFM. And we said, okay, we've got opportunities to go out here in the market and shake things up. We had to come up with benefits because my product's 3 times more than everybody else's. And this was without any changes, just swapping their product for my product. When all of a sudden you can create $80 million of incremental revenue over 5 years, the cost of my product might be $3 million versus $1 million. They don't care at that point because they're making lots of money. Also, we understood that there were 2 primary use cases. One is they can save a lot of money. So if you're in New York, you're paying a premium for floor space and office space. We said, hey, you know what? Our competitor's product, we could take that from 2,400 square feet down to 8 square feet, 2 floor tiles in a data center. That means real money for the customer. Again, they don't care about the cost when they're getting that type of savings level. What happened as a result is we put one of our competitors out of the market. They left. The other one lost the leadership, and they went from 65% down to about 35%, and we became the leader. So even in an old, nascent, mature market, if you understand the competitor's blind spots and how they're not going to react until it's too late, game over at that point. I'm going to finish up with a couple things around frameworks, and I'll give you my perspective. This actually came together based upon a lot of conversations and discussions that are going on over the last 2 days. So I think it's fair. We all know Gen AI is transforming everything. We have Gen AI projects going on within Dell. How about you? Oh, you don't have any? Oh, okay. That's good for me. Again, a blind spot, right? So we started looking because even with us, we're having problems with our implementation, hallucinations, error rates, and things like that. I started looking into why are companies not committing to it full time? Everybody's experimenting with it, but nobody's committing to it. The reason is the execs have a lack of understanding about the technology. A lot of them view that as, oh, this is a new IT tool. That's not the case. It's a product that can be used, a technology that can be used to transform strategy. And that's really the key behind this. And you see articles like this. And I'm like, even to a certain extent, we have a little bit of that as well. So I'm going like, what's the real issue? The real issue is there's lack of confidence at the executive levels that there's actually something productive that's going to come out of it. And we hear this all the time, not only from our customers, but I've done a lot of research myself. Part of my journey is, okay, we implement our own AI within about 3 months. It was a huge, huge lift for my team. A lot of work, a lot of overtime, even though we don't pay overtime. And the question kind of drove us on this is, what if your competition is already using Gen AI against you? What if they're already manipulating their messaging to make you look bad? What if they're already making decisions about acquisitions because you don't see what's going on? That got me thinking. And I said, the problem we have, my team has, is kind of summed up here. I talked about barbecue earlier. I'll use that to help close us out. Can you barbecue? I made barbecue brisket so bad even the dogs wouldn't eat it. That's really bad. It was over-smoked, it was dried out. Even they didn't want to eat it. And I said, okay, and this is a true story. Back in 2004, I said, I can't make good barbecue. What am I going to do about it? I flew from Denver to Washington, D.C. to take lessons from this guy, Paul Kirk. He just passed away back in May. Paul is a great teacher. He taught me everything from the very basics of how to make a rub, which is basically equal parts salt and sugar, and maybe some pepper in there. And then you can start adding things in. So it gave me the foundation of how to build my own rubs. And then he showed me how we prepare the meat, put it into smoker, timing's important, how to keep the fire going. And I actually started creating award-winning barbecue. And they weren't awards from me, okay? They were awards at these contests. So it's really interesting. And I said, you know what? There's roughly an analogy here with how we do AI. And just like with anything, you have to periodically take more courses. And so we took courses with Stephen right there, Reichland. And it's about always learning, because there's new techniques that come up all the time. And so I started searching for an organization that could help me provide guidance to my team. And there's a group of engineers who work for the American Institute of Artificial Intelligence. And they have actually a body of knowledge that they put together. And they teach courses. And they're going to have a micro-society called the Society of Artificial Intelligence for CI. So it's not a replacement for SCIP. It's not a replacement for anything. It's a whole new organization focused on you and I, as CI professionals and practitioners, on how we leverage AI. So the things that might be offered from a commercial standpoint, you can integrate it into there. And that's one of the things I like. I don't have to change or take anything away from the rest of the Dell organization, but I can build proactive agents that go out and do that work. And because they're mine, we have full control over it. And for a company as large as we are, that's an important criteria. But it's going to be called SAICI.ai. It will be the website. They're going to announce here in the next few weeks, yes, I am involved in it. So hopefully something we could talk about next year. Up here with Soren. So with that, the thing about having AI, you still have to understand the basics. You have to understand the Porter models. You have to understand blind spots. You have to understand how to do wargaming, which I understand has a bad name, so we now call it pre-mortem analysis. It's true. So there's a bunch of things here that you still need to understand about how to be a CI practitioner. What AI does is it complements it. I will contend it will not replace the CI practitioner. It's a tool to be used by you and I to become more efficient, because think about what I just said earlier. If the competition has asymmetrical advantage over you, you're already losing. So it's better to be proactive, and that's why I think the SAICI organization is going to be of a lot of help. With that, let's see. I won't go through this. I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but these are the lessons learned from what we learned on this particular journey. And there's my LinkedIn QR code if you want to reach out to me for the ROI presentation or anything else. So thank you for your time this morning. I really appreciate it.